Terry Hibbett died in 1994, and his story has been wrapped in myth ever since. The truth is, his early years were full of frustration. He called his time at Leeds United his wasted years, a period where a player of his talent sat on the sidelines, stuck in reserve team football while others took the spotlight. But here's what they got wrong. This same player became a Tyneside legend, a creative genius with a magic wand for a left foot. One half of one of the most fearsome partnerships in football history. The lie wasn't what you think it was. Terry Hibbett joined Leeds United in 1965. It seemed like the perfect start. In his senior debut against Nottingham Forest in February 1966, he came on as a substitute and scored a spectacular goal. He lobbed the goalkeeper from 20 yards out. The crowd knew they were watching something special. This kid had immense talent. His elegant style and technical skill made him stand out. Despite having a frail build and bandy legs, he played cultured, intelligent football. But here's the problem. Leeds United was too good. Don Revie's squad was packed with 12 full internationals. Players like Terry Cooper and Eddie Gray blocked his path to the starting lineup. Both were European-class talents who dominated the left side. Even in central midfield, where smaller players like Bobby Collins and Billy Bremner thrived, Hibbett couldn't break through. He averaged just 9 league appearances per season during his 6 years at Leeds. Only 47 league games total. Hibbett later admitted these were his wasted years. The system failed him. FA rules in the late 1960s limited squads to 20 players and allowed only one substitute. His fiery personality didn't help either. He dared to question Revie's authority. That kind of attitude didn't fit in the rigid Leeds dressing room. It was a golden cage. He had the talent to shine at the highest level, but the circumstances kept him trapped. His younger brother Kenny carved out a successful career at Wolverhampton Wanderers, which must have made the frustration harder to bear. In 1971, everything changed. Newcastle United manager Joe Harvey placed a bid of £30,000 for Hibbett. Leeds accepted. Harvey saw what Leeds couldn't use. He told his star striker, Malcolm MacDonald, something that would prove prophetic. "Mal, I have just signed the man who is going to make the bullets for you to fire." Harvey understood that Hibbett needed freedom to express himself. He needed a manager who would trust him. This signing would transform both Hibbett's career and Newcastle's fortunes. The partnership was instant. Both players made their competitive debuts for Newcastle in the same game, just 2 weeks after the transfer. They made their home debut together in a 3-2 victory over Liverpool. MacDonald scored a hat-trick. Hibbett set up the third goal, driving forward and delivering the final pass. The chemistry between them was electric from the first moment. They became close friends on and off the pitch. Harvey's bargain signing turned out to be one of the best value transfers in Newcastle's history. The £30,000 fee was nothing compared to the impact Hibbett would have. Harvey later called it a portly sum, but it secured a player who would become absolutely essential. At Newcastle, Hibbett transformed from a left winger into a cultured playmaker. His left foot was a magic wand. He delivered exocet passes, long distance, first-time balls that sliced through defences. He had an instinctive feel for the through ball that perfectly matched MacDonald's aggressive, marauding style of attack. Despite his frail-looking physique, he had an exceptional work rate. His non-stop scheming made United tick. The team's entire strategy revolved around him. They would invite attacks, win the ball back, and launch it to Hibbett. He would then thread those signature passes into MacDonald's path. It was simple, but devastatingly effective. In the 1974 FA Cup semi-final against Burnley, Hibbett delivered one of those perfect passes that set up a crucial MacDonald goal. Do you remember this legendary duo? If Terry Hibbett's story brings back memories, drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more forgotten football heroes like this. Teammate Terry McDermott said Hibbett made 75% of MacDonald's goals. MacDonald himself called Hibbett one of the game's great passers who made countless goals for him at Newcastle. The numbers back it up. The partnership was built on mutual understanding and genuine friendship. But Hibbett never got international recognition. He lacked the physique and perhaps the temperament for the England squad. The 1970s England midfield wanted ball winners, not elegant playmakers. The emphasis was on physical strength, rather than creative artistry. So one of the best passers in the game never wore the 3 lions. Others with less talent got called up, while Hibbett was overlooked. It was one of the great injustices of his career. Hibbett's rebellious nature became legendary. He and MacDonald were both 20-a-day men, smokers. At half-time, they were the first down the tunnel, lighting up in the dressing room. MacDonald later recalled that Hibbett enjoyed a few pints and a game of dominoes midweek, yet still performed tirelessly on Saturday. He was up and down that line all match. His lifestyle would have been unthinkable for modern athletes. Coach Keith Birkinshaw hated the smoking. After countless ignored warnings, he convinced manager Joe Harvey to ban it. A sign went up above the dressing room door. No smoking in the dressing room. Joe Harvey, manager. The very next game, a Wednesday night fixture, Hibbett and MacDonald sparked up at half-time like nothing had changed. Birkinshaw exploded. He demanded they put out the filthy tabs. The 2 players refused. They threatened to leave the club if they couldn't have a cigarette. The situation turned into a full-blown crisis. Then Joe Harvey walked in, cup of tea in hand. The team was winning 2-0. Harvey knew what mattered. He grabbed a felt-tip pen and changed the sign. It now read, "No smoking in the dressing room. Joe Harvey, manager, except Terry Hibbett and Malcolm MacDonald." This wasn't poor discipline. It was brilliant man management. Harvey understood that keeping his 2 stars happy was more important than enforcing a pointless rule. He respected their quirks. He knew that getting the best out of them meant letting them be themselves. His laid-back approach and exceptional people skills allowed him to handle difficult personalities. Harvey sometimes calmed Hibbett, the biggest moaner at the club, with a simple box of cigarettes. He had warned his squad when signing Hibbett, "Mind he'll cause trouble in an empty house." But Harvey handled him perfectly. He turned Hibbett's defiance into loyalty. Hibbett's rebellious streak went beyond smoking. He had a fiercely argumentative nature. He frequently got in trouble with referees, missing games through suspension. He even antagonized his own teammates, offering unrequested advice that led to dressing room fights. In 1972, after a defeat at Molineux, all hell broke loose in the changing room. Hibbett was at the centre of it. But Harvey never tried to change Hibbett. He accepted the whole package because he knew the talent was worth it. The player struggled under the stringent discipline at Leeds, but flourished under Harvey's approach. In 1975, Hibbett transferred to Birmingham City. He made 110 league appearances and scored 11 goals. He became club captain and led the team under Sir Alf Ramsey during the former England manager's brief return to club football. His precision passing benefited Trevor Francis the same way it had helped MacDonald. A funny headline appeared after a 1977 derby match, Hibbett City 2, Hibbett Wanderers 1. Terry had scored Birmingham's winner against his brother Kenny's Wolverhampton Wanderers side. The Hibbett family had real talent. In 1978, Hibbett returned to Newcastle for a second spell. The club was struggling in Division 2. He served as captain again, making 90 league appearances. He helped stabilise the team during a difficult transition period and mentored young players like Chris Waddle. His experience and leadership were invaluable. A persistent knee injury eventually ended his league career. From 1981 to 1986, he played for Gateshead, making 130 appearances and scoring 7 goals. He even served briefly as player coach and manager. After professional football, Hibbett stayed in the North East. He demonstrated deep regional loyalty by remaining in the area where he had achieved his fame. He ran a milk round in the local area. He owned a newsagent in the old West Denton shopping centre. He served as a landlord, running pubs like the Diamond Inn in Ponteland. These weren't glamorous jobs, but they kept him connected to the community that loved him. He remained a Newcastle United legend long after his playing days ended. Fans would see him around town and remember the magic he created on the pitch. In August 1994, Terry Hibbett died from cancer in Newcastle upon Tyne. He was only 46 years old. The tragedy was cruel and sudden. The smoking habit that defined his rebellious image likely played a role in the cancer that took his life. He smoked like a chimney throughout his career. So what was the lie? The lie was that Terry Hibbett was just a troublemaker, a player who wasted his potential. The truth is, He was a misunderstood genius who flourished under the right management. He was the essential creative force behind Newcastle's success in the 1970s. His talent was never in question, but there's a darker truth too. The very thing that made him a legend, his defiant smoking habit, likely contributed to his death. The famous dressing room sign that celebrated his rebellion now stands as a tragic reminder. The non-conformity that secured his status on Tyneside was linked to the habit that cut his life short. It's a powerful irony that can't be ignored. Malcolm MacDonald said that no Newcastle player since, not Chris Waddle, not David Ginola, not Laurent Robert, has ever matched Hibbett's superb passing ability. That's high praise from someone who watched some of the best creative talents in the club's history. His legacy isn't measured in statistics. He scored only 32 goals across 400 league matches, but numbers don't tell his story. It's measured in the memories of those who watched him play, the bullets he made for others to fire, the friendships he forged, the community he served. Terry Hibbett remains one of the most underrated footballers in English history. He transformed Newcastle's attack. He made one of the greatest strikers in the club's history even better. His true legendary status comes from the transformative effect he had on partnerships, coupled with a defiant character that resonated deeply with Tyneside. What do you think of Terry Hibbett's story? Did his rebellious nature make him great? Or did it cost him in the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and share it with other football fans. When Leighton James died in April 2024 at the age of 71, the tributes poured in from across the football world. Burnley, Swansea, Derby County and the Welsh national team all honoured a man whose skill on the pitch had left an indelible mark on British football. But who was Leighton James beyond the headlines? This is the story of one of Wales's greatest ever wingers, a player whose talent was undeniable, whose passion ran deep, and whose life reflected both the glory and complexity of a nearly two-decade career at the highest level. Leighton James was born on February 16, 1953, in Lochor, Swansea, Wales. Growing up in this proud Welsh town, James would develop not just his football skills, but a fierce love for his homeland that would define his entire life. From an early age, it was clear he had something special. His speed, his balance, his ability to beat defenders with a shimmy or a burst of acceleration made him stand out in youth football. By the time he was a teenager, professional clubs were taking notice. In 1970, at just 17 years old, James made his professional debut for Burnley Football Club against Nottingham Forest. It didn't take long for the Turf Moor faithful to fall in love with their new left winger. His style was electric, combining pace with technical ability and an aggressive determination to take on any defender. Fans quickly dubbed him the Welsh Wizard, a nickname that would stick throughout his career. James had that rare quality that gets supporters off their seats, the ability to make something happen out of nothing. His impact at Burnley was immediate and sustained. In the 1972-73 season, James was a key figure as the Clarets won the Second Division Championship, earning promotion to the top flight. His performances were characterised by bravery, skill, and an unwavering commitment to attack. By the 1974-75 season, he had become so integral to the team that he finished as Burnley's top scorer, a remarkable achievement for a winger. Over his 3 separate spells at the club, James would make 399 appearances and score 81 goals, placing him 10th on Burnley's all-time appearance list. These aren't just statistics, they represent years of commitment, countless memorable moments, and a genuine bond between player and club. James's talent inevitably attracted attention from bigger clubs. In 1975, Derby County came calling with a then-club record fee of £310,000. This transfer was significant not just for the money involved, but for what it represented. Derby County were a major force in English football at the time, and they saw James as the player who could help take them to the next level. The move validated what everyone who had watched James already knew. He was a premier talent in English football. At Derby, James continued to shine. He made 89 appearances, scored 21 goals, and was named Derby County's Player of the Year for the 1976-77 season. That individual honour reflected his consistency and importance to the team. Night after night, James would deliver performances that justified Derby's record investment. his style hadn't changed. He was still the same aggressive, skillful winger who could terrify fullbacks and create chances, seemingly at will. But it was with Wales that Leighton James would cement his place in football history. Between 1971 and 1983, James earned 54 caps for his country, scoring 10 goals. He first pulled on the red shirt at just 18 years old in 1971 against Czechoslovakia. And from that moment, representing Wales became one of the defining aspects of his life. James wasn't just talented. He was passionate about playing for his country in a way that resonated with Welsh fans. Later in his career, he would even captain the national team, first leading the side in 1981 against Iceland. The 1970s were a golden era for Welsh football, even if it didn't always receive the recognition it deserved. James was a pivotal player in the Welsh team that nearly reached the Euro 1976 finals, a squad fondly remembered as the forgotten team. They came agonisingly close to major tournament qualification, and James's performances throughout that campaign showcased his ability to perform on the biggest stages. But one moment stands above all others in James's international career. In May 1977, during the British Home Championship, Wales travelled to Wembley to face England. For any Welsh player, beating England is the ultimate achievement, and doing it at Wembley, in front of 80,000 fans, makes it even more special. That day, Leighton James stepped up to take a penalty. The pressure was immense, but James showed the same confidence he displayed every time he stepped onto a pitch. He scored, and it proved to be the only goal of the game. Wales had beaten England at Wembley, and to this day, it remains Wales's only victory against England achieved on English soil. That penalty cemented James's status as a Welsh icon, a moment of national pride that would never be forgotten. If you're enjoying this look at Leighton James's remarkable career, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. We're dedicated to telling the stories of football legends who shaped the game we love, and let me know in the comments, do you remember watching James play? What's your favourite memory of Welsh football from this era? Now, let's continue with one of the most exciting chapters of his career. In 1980, Leighton James made a decision that would define the final chapter of his playing career. He returned home to Wales, signing with Swansea City as a proud Swansea Jack. This move meant everything to James. He wasn't just joining another club, he was coming home to help his hometown team achieve something special. Under the management of John Toshak, who had praised James as one of the finest wingers British football had ever produced, Swansea City were on an incredible journey. James became integral to the club's remarkable rise. He helped promote Swansea from the third division all the way to the top flight, a journey that captured the imagination of Welsh football fans. His role in this ascent was immortalised by one particular moment. In the final game of the 1981 season against Preston North End, with promotion to the First Division on the line, James scored a stunning goal that secured Swansea City's first ever promotion to the top tier of English football. It was the kind of moment that legends are made of. That season, James finished with 16 league goals, an outstanding return that demonstrated he was still at the peak of his powers. The following campaign, he helped the Swans finish 6th in the First Division, a remarkable achievement for a club that had been in the third tier just 2 years earlier. For James, these years at Swansea represented a renaissance, a chance to give back to his community and be part of something truly special. After leaving Swansea, James had spells with Sunderland, Bury and Newport County, before returning to Burnley for a third and final time, when he finally hung up his boots. He had compiled a career that few could match. The numbers tell part of the story. Hundreds of appearances, dozens of goals, club records and international caps. But they don't tell the whole story. James had been a player who embodied a certain style of football: aggressive, exciting, brave, and always entertaining. He was the kind of player fans paid to watch. Throughout his career, James was known for his incredible work ethic and dedication to improving his craft. Teammates often spoke of his commitment to training and his willingness to put in extra hours perfecting his crossing and shooting technique. He was also known for his mental toughness, the the ability to perform under pressure in the biggest matches. Whether it was at Wembley against England or in crucial promotion battles with his clubs, James never shied away from the moment. His left foot was described as a wand by many who watched him play, capable of delivering pinpoint crosses that strikers dreamed of or unleashing powerful shots that goalkeepers struggled to handle. Defenders from that era still remember the difficulty of facing James. His combination of pace and skill meant that even the best fullbacks in the game had no easy answer to his attacking threat. One former opponent recalled that marking James was like trying to catch smoke. You knew he was dangerous, but stopping him was another matter entirely. Following his retirement from playing, James transitioned into media work, becoming a prominent voice in Welsh football. He worked as a pundit for BBC radio and television, and had a regular programme on Real Radio. His outspoken style, the same confidence and directness that had served him on the pitch, made him compelling listening. James wasn't afraid to give his opinion, and he brought the same passion to his analysis that he had brought to his playing career. Football punditry suited James in many ways. He had the credibility of a long and successful career. He understood the game at the highest level, and he wasn't afraid of controversy. His phone-in segments became unmissable entertainment, with James engaging passionately with callers and not backing down from confrontation. For listeners, this made for compelling radio. James was authentic, never afraid to say what he thought. However, this outspoken style occasionally created friction. In the late 2000s, James had a famous on-air confrontation with fellow Welsh international Robbie Savage. The argument was intense, lasting 45 minutes, and made national headlines. James criticised Savage's ability and commitment, even questioning why Savage didn't sing the national anthem before matches. Savage fired back with his own criticisms of James's playing career. It was explosive radio that showcased both men's passionate personalities. Interestingly, James later expressed respect for Savage, admiring his willingness to come on air and defend himself. The incident highlighted how James viewed football debate as combat, something to be won rather than merely discussed. In 2007, James faced a personal crisis. Following the death of his father, he was stopped by police and charged with drink driving. His breath test showed he was over the legal limit. At court, his solicitor explained that James had been drowning his sorrows after his father's death. He pleaded guilty, received a 16-month driving ban, and was fined £575. It was a difficult moment, one that James acknowledged was a serious mistake made during a period of profound grief. Then, in March 2008, James faced professional consequences for comments he made about the FA Cup semi-final between Cardiff City and Barnsley. As both a newspaper columnist and BBC pundit, James publicly stated he hoped Barnsley would defeat Cardiff City, citing the intense Swansea-Cardiff rivalry. For someone working for a national broadcaster, this was seen as a breach of impartiality. The BBC suspended James from appearing on its programmes for a period. The incident highlighted the tension between James's passionate regional loyalty and the ethical requirements of broadcast journalism. These controversies shouldn't define James's legacy, but they are part of his story. They show a man whose passion and directness, qualities that made him a great player, didn't always translate perfectly to other professional contexts. James was always authentically himself, for better and worse. After his media career, James took on brief coaching and management roles. He was appointed manager of Abraman Athletic in 2009, and later became director of football at Haverfordwest County in 2011. Though he resigned after less than 2 months, these roles never quite captured his attention the way playing and punditry had. When Leighton James died on April 19, 2024, in Sibiu and Rhydycol, Wales, the football world united to celebrate his life and achievements. The tributes focused overwhelmingly on his contributions to the sport. Burnley's chairman Alan Pace said James had left an indelible mark on the club, and that stories of his playing skills still echo around Turf Moor. The Football Association of Wales highlighted his place in history, particularly that defining Wembley victory. Both Burnley and Swansea City wore black armbands in their next fixtures to honour his memory. These tributes reflected a collective understanding of what Leighton James meant to football. He was a Welsh wizard who brought joy to thousands of fans across decades. He was a player who gave everything on the pitch, whose skill and bravery made him one of the finest wingers of his generation. He scored the goal that gave Wales their greatest victory over England. He helped Burnley and Swansea City achieve success that fans still celebrate today. Beyond the statistics and the trophies, James represented something deeper for Welsh football. He was a symbol of pride and determination, a working-class boy from Lahore who made it to the very top of the game through sheer talent and willpower. His journey inspired countless young Welsh players who saw in him proof that they too could compete at the highest level. James never forgot his roots and remained deeply connected to the communities that shaped him. He would often return to local clubs and schools to share his experiences and encourage the next generation. His influence extended far beyond his playing days, shaping the culture of Welsh football and helping to establish a tradition of technical, attacking wing play that continues to this day. Former players and managers credit James with raising the profile of Welsh football internationally and proving that small nations could produce world-class talent. Yes, James was a complex figure. His confidence could come across as arrogance. His passion could spill over into controversy. His directness sometimes created conflict. But these weren't separate from his greatness. They were part of the same package. The self-belief that allowed him to step up and score that penalty at Wembley. The aggression that made him such a fearsome winger. The authenticity that made him compelling as a pundit. These all came from the same place. The legacy of Leighton James is ultimately one of extraordinary achievement. He was a footballer who reached the highest levels of the game through talent, hard work, and an unwavering belief in himself. He represented his country with immense pride over more than a decade. He gave fans of multiple clubs memories they'll treasure forever. And he lived his life on his own terms, always authentic, always passionate, always himself. In the end, when we remember Leighton James, we should remember the Welsh wizard who could beat any defender, the national hero who scored at Wembley, the top scorer, the player of the year, the club legend. We should remember a man who loved football, loved Wales, and who gave everything to both. His story is a reminder that greatness in sport comes from being fully committed, fully present, and fully yourself, even when that means being imperfect. Leighton James left an indelible mark on British football, and his legacy will endure wherever the game is played in Wales and beyond. Thank you for watching this celebration of a true football legend. Please like, subscribe, and share your memories of the Welsh wizard in the comments below. September 29th, 1981. A man who never smoked, never drank, and exercised religiously died at the age of 68, not from disease, but from what many called a broken heart. Bill Shankly, the legendary Liverpool manager who transformed a struggling second division club into one of football's greatest dynasties, passed away alone and alienated from the very institution he had built with his bare hands. Thousands lined the streets for his funeral, mourning a folk hero who had died feeling like an outsider at the club he revolutionised. This is the tragic story of a man who escaped poverty to reach the pinnacle of success, only to lose everything when he needed it most. To understand how it all went wrong, we need to go back to where it all began. Bill Shankly was born in September 1913 in Glenbuck, a tiny coal mining village in Ayrshire, Scotland. He was one of 10 children growing up in crushing poverty. The village was so remote and desolate that Shankly himself compared it to Outer Mongolia. Life there was brutal. Hunger was a constant reality, especially during the ruthless winter months. Shankly later admitted in his autobiography that as a young boy, he stole food to survive, coal to burn, and bread to share with his brothers. These weren't acts of rebellion, but desperate measures born from necessity. The conditions were so abysmal that he didn't experience his first proper bath until he was 15 years old. By the time he turned 14, he was already working as a coal miner. But Glenbuck, despite its poverty, had one remarkable gift: football. The village produced an astonishing 50 professional players from its local team, the Glenbuck Cherry Pickers. All 5 of Shankly's brothers went on to play professional football. For the youth of Glenbuck, football wasn't just a game. It was the only viable escape route from a life of hardship and manual labour, and Bill Shankly seized that opportunity with both hands. But before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us which football legend you'd like us to cover next. Your support keeps these stories alive. This harsh upbringing forged Shankly's character and worldview. Growing up, he witnessed mine owners consistently prioritizing profit over the safety and welfare of the workers. This instilled in him a lifelong distrust of authority and a fierce loyalty to the working class. For Shankly, survival and personal welfare were inherently tied to collective effort and resource sharing. He later described his philosophy simply: socialism is everyone working for each other, everyone having a share of the rewards. That's how he saw football, and that's how he saw life. This belief system would define everything he did as a manager at Liverpool, shaping his focus on the players and the fans while deliberately excluding the directors, whom he viewed as obstacles rather than partners. Football offered Shankly his escape. In 1933, he joined Preston North End as a gritty right half. Over 16 years, he made nearly 300 league appearances for the club. The pinnacle of his playing career came in 1938 when he won the FA Cup with Preston and earned his debut for Scotland. He would go on to earn 5 caps for his country before everything changed. In 1939, the outbreak of World War II suspended official football, robbing Shankly of approximately 7 peak years of his career, from ages 26 to 33. He served as an RAF corporal during the war and stayed physically fit, playing in numerous wartime matches. But when professional league football officially resumed, Shankly was inevitably viewed as part of a pre-war generation. His prime years were gone. The war experience, however, shaped him in other ways. His time in the Royal Air Force absolutely influenced his approach to management. The military environment instilled discipline, confidence, and an uncompromising focus that became hallmarks of his leadership style. He demanded relentless commitment from his players, often repeating his famous maxim about being prepared to run through a brick wall and come out fighting on the other side. After the war, Shankly spent a decade managing lower league clubs. Then, in December 1959, he arrived at Liverpool Football Club. What he found shocked him. Liverpool were languishing in the second division, and the infrastructure was crumbling. Shankly famously described Anfield as the biggest toilet in Liverpool when he first saw it, but Shankly saw potential where others saw decay. Over the next 15 years, he transformed Liverpool from a second division side into the finest team of its generation. He rebuilt the Melwood training facility and formed the legendary Boot Room Collective, enlisting loyal staff members like Bob Paisley and Joe Fagan. Under Shankly, Liverpool won promotion, 3 First Division titles, 2 FA Cups, and the UEFA Cup. But more than trophies, Shankly revolutionised the culture of the club. He cultivated a unique kinship with the local fan base, deliberately connecting the team's spirit to the city's identity. He famously said he was one of them, that Liverpool people were arrogant, cocky, and proud. And that's exactly how he wanted his team to be. He made supporters feel like essential participants, not just spectators. He created what he called the Holy Trinity of the club: the players, the manager, and the supporters. Notably absent from that trinity were the directors. Shankly pointedly said they were only there to sign the cheques. This deep bond with the working class fan base led to his deification. Many fans viewed football as a religion, a way of life, and Shankly was their god. But this intense relationship came at a cost. The weight of being the club's saviour, combined with his constant conflicts with the boardroom directors, created immense internal strain. By 1974, Shankly was emotionally exhausted. Just weeks after winning the FA Cup final, he made the most shocking decision of his life. On July 12, 1974, Bill Shankly announced his surprise retirement. The reaction across the city was akin to grief and mourning. The regret was instantaneous. Almost immediately after resigning, Bill regretted his decision. He considered it the worst mistake of his life. He realised with crushing clarity that he could not live without football. The club had literally become his life, and relinquishing his professional identity equated to an abrupt loss of self. He fiercely rejected the concept of retirement entirely, declaring it the most stupid word he'd ever heard, and insisting that you only retire when they put the coffin lid down with your name on top. Driven by profound regret, Shankly returned to the Melwood training ground by August 1974, wearing his training kit and attempting to rejoin the daily routine. He maintained he was willing to help in any advisory capacity, free of charge. But his presence immediately destabilised the new management structure. The players naturally referred to him as boss, while Bob Paisley, his longtime assistant and reluctant successor, was simply called Bob. This automatically undermined Paisley's authority. Shankly, unable to stay on the sidelines, even started taking over training sessions. Paisley reportedly threatened to resign due to the interference. The Liverpool board faced an unenviable position. They had to protect the new regime and maintain stability. This decision was heavily influenced by the cautionary example of Manchester United, where Sir Matt Busby's continued presence undermined his successor. For the benefit of Liverpool's future, Chairman John Smith was compelled to ask Shankly to stay away from Melwood. Shankly accepted the ban. He noted he felt there was some resentment, wondering what the hell he was doing there. He subsequently stopped visiting Melwood and the director's box at Anfield. But he resented this decision for the rest of his life. The board's necessary act to protect institutional continuity was perceived by Shankly as a deep personal betrayal. It seemingly confirmed his lifelong suspicion that the owners would eventually reject the needs of the people for the sake of organisational pragmatism. Shunned by his former club and increasingly bitter, Shankly spent his final years searching unsuccessfully for a meaningful role in the game he loved. He found some work in the media, hosting a chat show on Radio City and working as a match pundit. He advised smaller clubs like Tranmere, but he required a position at the centre of things, and that was denied to him. Exiled, he was reduced to watching matches at other grounds, including Everton and Manchester United. The anguish was compounded by the fact that Liverpool, under Paisley, immediately became an even more formidable force, achieving unprecedented European success. The game had carried on and prospered without him. In early autumn 1981, Shankly suffered a heart attack. Although he was a picture of health, neither drinking nor smoking and exercising daily, he suffered a second massive heart attack and died on September 29, 1981, aged 68. Former colleagues articulated the sense that despite his physical fitness, he died of a broken heart. The prevailing analysis holds that the club Shankly transformed had pushed him away when he needed them most. Following his death, thousands lined the streets for his funeral. His ashes were later scattered on the Anfield pitch near the Kop end, symbolically connecting him forever with the ground of his beloved club. The famous Shankly gates were built outside Anfield 11 months after his death, bearing the words, "You'll never walk alone." A bronze statue was later placed at Anfield, carrying the inscription, "He made the people happy." The final irony is clear. The great architect of Liverpool's identity was only permitted a permanent central role at the club through the permanence of a bronze statue and scattered ashes. Shankly's life is a monumental chronicle of rags to riches, yet his death provided the devastating conclusion to his sob story. He was a revolutionary leader and a folk hero, yet he died feeling like an outsider at the club he built. If you found this story as powerful as we did, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss another deep dive into football's most compelling figures. Drop a comment and let us know whose story we should tell next. Bill Shankly's legacy lives on, but his final years remind us that even legends can be forgotten by the institutions they create. Can't move a muscle. That was the reality of Jimmy Johnstone's final years, trapped in a body ravaged by motor neurone disease. But before that cruel end, he was magic on a football pitch. They called him Jinky, the Lord of the Wing, the greatest ever Celt. A 5'4" genius from a Scottish mining town who became a European champion. The fans adored him. His statue stands outside Celtic Park, frozen forever in a moment of brilliance, the ball glued to his foot. But here's the painful truth. The life his family remembers is nothing like the legend. His son called living with him torture. His daughter said leaving Celtic broke him. This is the story of two Jinkies, the immortal myth cast in bronze, and the fragile man who lived in his shadow. How did a footballing god become a figure of such profound tragedy? Jimmy Johnstone wasn't born a legend. He made himself one. Growing up in View Park, football was everything. He spent hours dribbling a ball around milk bottles in his hallway, perfecting his balance and control. He even wore heavy pit boots during training, believing it would make his legs stronger and faster. It worked. By 1967, he was part of the Lisbon Lions, the Celtic team that became the first British club to win the European Cup. Every single player was born within 30 miles of Glasgow. 2 weeks after Lisbon, Celtic played Real Madrid in front of over 100,000 fans. Johnstone destroyed them. The hostile Spanish crowd started chanting "Olé, olé" every time he touched the ball. He was unstoppable. Real Madrid reportedly tried to sign him after the match. But even at his best, there were cracks. His genius was volatile. He needed structure. That structure came from Jock Stein, Celtic's manager. Stein understood Johnstone's weaknesses. He knew about his fear of flying, triggered by a terrifying flight from San Francisco before a European match against Red Star Belgrade. Stein made a deal. If Celtic won the first leg by 4 goals, Johnstone wouldn't have to fly to Yugoslavia for the return match. Johnstone scored 2 and set up 2 more in a 5-1 win, then ran off the pitch shouting, "I'll no need to go." Stein later said his greatest achievement wasn't winning trophies, it was keeping Johnstone in the game 5 years longer than he should have been. That tells you everything. Without Stein, Johnstone was lost. And that's exactly what happened when he left Celtic's protective bubble. In the summer of 1974, 2 incidents exposed the self-destructive man beneath the genius. First was the Largs boat incident. The Scotland squad was preparing for the World Cup. After a night of heavy drinking, Johnstone climbed into a rowboat on the beach as a joke. His teammate kicked the boat into the water. There were no oars. The tide pulled him out to sea. He had to be rescued by the Coast Guard. It became a media sensation. 3 days later, he produced a brilliant performance against England. He always responded on the pitch. Off it, he was falling apart. What do you think happens when a genius loses the one thing that gives them structure? Can you think of other athletes who wasted their talent because they couldn't handle life off the field? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into the tragedy of Jimmy Johnstone, hit that subscribe button. Weeks after Largs, Johnstone was in Norway for another World Cup warm-up. The manager imposed a strict curfew. Johnstone and Billy Bremner ignored it completely. They burst into a student bar where 2 football commentators were having a quiet drink. They were very drunk, singing loudly and causing a scene. This wasn't harmless fun. It was a serious breach of discipline, and it cost him. Despite being named in the 22-man squad for the 1974 World Cup, Johnstone didn't play a single minute. Not against Zaire, not against Brazil, not against Yugoslavia. One of the most gifted players of his generation was left on the bench because he couldn't control himself. Both incidents happened on international duty, away from Jock Stein's watchful eye. Without that structure, his self-destructive tendencies took over immediately. Then came 1975, the year everything fell apart. Jock Stein gave Johnstone a free transfer. He was finished at Celtic. Johnstone was seen crying in the car park after being told the news. His wife said Celtic was the only team he ever wanted to play for. His daughter Marie witnessed the change firsthand. "When my dad left Celtic, I think part of him left himself," she said. "I felt the heart was gone. It wasn't the same. I think it broke him a bit and he went down dark roads, and it was sad. Leaving Celtic didn't just end his career, it erased his identity. And it triggered a complete collapse. His post-Celtic career was a disaster. He drifted through the lower leagues, San Jose Earthquakes in America, Sheffield United, Dundee, Shelbourne in Ireland, finally, Elgin City. He couldn't settle anywhere. At Dundee, Johnstone admitted his heart was not in it, and that he did not apply himself properly. He had lost all desire to play for anyone else. His identity was so completely fused with Celtic that his departure triggered a form of psychological death, and the alcoholism that followed was how he tried to numb the pain. His son James described it as torture. Johnstone's drinking binges could last for weeks. The family locked the doors to stop him from leaving, but the addiction was too strong. "He'd be climbing in and out the windows to get away," James said. "It was soul-destroying." His wife Agnes confirmed it. Johnstone was his own worst enemy. The man who brought joy to millions was causing unbearable pain to the people who loved him most. Then Celtic made a terrible mistake. They loaned Johnstone £23,000 to buy a pub in Hamilton. He called it the Double J. For a man already drowning in alcoholism, it was like handing gasoline to a fire. The pub became the epicentre of his self-destruction. Agnes painted a grim picture. Jimmy would come in at the end of the night and take money out of the till and go for a Chinese with his cronies, she said. He just went to the pub and drank in it. He didn't work in it. Patrons encouraged his drinking, telling him, "The more vodka you drink, the better player you are." Celtic's loan was well-intentioned, but it was naive and dangerous. They gave him the worst possible environment. And then there was the financial ruin. At the peak of his career, as a European champion, Johnstone earned just £50 per week at Celtic. For winning the European Cup in 1967, the Lisbon Lions each received a bonus of £500. When his career ended, there was no safety net, no pension, no support. He was cast adrift. At his lowest point, the man who had been cheered in the Bernabeu was forced to work as a labourer on a building site. The most heartbreaking moment came when he tried to sell his entire collection of winners' medals to a businessman friend for £10,000. The friend refused to take them. The need to part with the very symbols of his life's work shows just how far he had fallen. In later years, his medals were sold at auction. A Scottish Cup medal from 1972 sold in 1995. His personalised number plate was sold by a collector. He was a cultural icon treated as a disposable asset. But then, in November 2001, everything changed. Johnstone was diagnosed with motor neurone disease, a cruel, incurable illness that attacks the nervous system. He had gone to the hospital thinking he had arthritis. The diagnosis stunned him. He even asked the doctor if his years of drinking had caused it. Despite the grim prognosis, Johnstone didn't retreat into self-pity. He immediately devoted himself to raising awareness and funds for MND research, knowing any cure would come too late to save him. He became a tireless campaigner. He recorded a charity version of Dirty Old Town with Simple Minds. He inspired the creation of limited edition Fabergé eggs to raise money. He used his fame for a final, selfless cause. His private battle was agonizing. The disease gradually confined him to his home, slowly robbing him of his physical abilities. His wife said the weakness began in his hands and arms. His famously strong legs were the last to fail. He was too proud to be seen in the wheelchair provided for him. His son James treasures the memory of their final years together. He stopped going to Celtic matches and instead watched them at home with his father. Even when Johnstone could no longer move, his mind was sharp. He would still know exactly what they were doing wrong on the pitch. His wife described his defiance in the face of the illness. He told MND support workers, "Don't come back until you've got something for this." In fighting the disease, he rediscovered the courage that had defined him on the pitch. Jimmy Johnstone passed away at his home on March 13, 2006, at the age of 61, surrounded by his family. Thousands of fans lined the streets outside Celtic Park as his funeral cortege passed. The League Cup final was dedicated to his memory. Celtic players all wore the number 7 on their shorts in his honour. The tragedy of Jimmy Johnstone lies in the violent oscillation between the heights of his genius and the depths of his despair. He was perfectly designed for 90 minutes on a football pitch, but tragically ill-equipped for the rest of his life. Leaving Celtic in 1975 wasn't just the end of a job, it was the erasure of his identity. Yet his final battle with MND offered redemption. Faced with an unwinnable fight, he rediscovered his defiance and purpose. He leaves behind a dual legacy. The immortal myth of Jinky, the greatest ever Celt, whose statue stands as a permanent reminder of the magic he brought to the game, and the heartbreaking story of James Connolly Johnstone, the fragile man from View Park who never truly found his footing off the pitch. As his son James said, "At home, he was just Dad." If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Ian Wallace was once Scotland's most promising striker, a player whose career trajectory seemed destined for greatness. Born in Glasgow in 1956, Wallace represents both the pinnacle of individual achievement and a sobering reminder of how professional sports can fail the very athletes who entertain millions. Today, at 69 years old, his story offers crucial insights into the pressures faced by elite athletes and the importance of comprehensive support systems. Wallace's journey to prominence began with his move to Coventry City in 1976 for a modest fee of £40,000. He arrived in England green and naive, describing the opportunity to play alongside teams like Manchester United, Liverpool and Tottenham as a dream come true. At Highfield Road, Wallace would establish himself as one of the most effective strikers of the late 1970s. The foundation of Wallace's success at Coventry was his partnership with Mick Ferguson, famously known as the Little and Large Combination. This tactical pairing capitalised on Wallace's speed and clinical finishing ability, while Ferguson provided physical presence and hold-up play. The synergy between these two players was remarkable, allowing both to flourish in complementary roles. During the 1977-78 season, Wallace reached his professional zenith, scoring 21 goals to set a Coventry City record for most league goals in a top-flight campaign. Ferguson contributed 17 goals in the same season, creating a combined output of over 50 goals between the partnership. This productivity was undeniable, earning Wallace international recognition with 3 caps for Scotland, including a goal on his debut against Bulgaria in February 1978. What made Wallace stand out during this period was his versatility as a forward. He could score headers, tap-ins, volleys, and his trademark overhead kicks. By the time he left Coventry in 1980, Wallace had scored 60 goals in 140 games, maintaining a robust goals per game average of approximately 0.43. These statistics positioned him as one of the most sought-after strikers in British football. The success at Coventry caught the attention of Nottingham Forest manager Brian Clough, who was rebuilding his squad after achieving European glory. Do you think the pressures of big money transfers have improved or worsened for modern players? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights into football history and the human stories behind the game. In July 1980, Wallace moved to Nottingham Forest for £1.25 million, making him one of the first British players involved in a 7-figure deal. This transfer came just 1 year after Trevor Francis had broken the £1 million barrier, meaning Wallace's move represented rapid inflation in player values. The financial significance of this deal cannot be understated. It placed enormous expectations on Wallace's shoulders and created intense media scrutiny. The transfer context was crucial to understanding the subsequent challenges. Nottingham Forest had just won consecutive European Cups, but finished 7th in the league the previous season. Clough needed expensive signings to reinvigorate his squad, and Wallace arrived alongside other high-profile players, including Justin Fashanu. The expectation was not merely to maintain standards, but to elevate the team's domestic performance. At Nottingham Forest, Wallace entered an environment overseen by Brian Clough, whose management style was intensely psychological and demanding. Clough had built his reputation on maximising player performance and justifying significant financial investments. For any player arriving with a record-breaking price tag, the pressure to deliver immediate results was immense. The psychological impact of such transfers extends beyond individual performance metrics. When a player becomes a symbolic marker of financial inflation in football, every touch of the ball becomes scrutinised. Wallace's transfer represented more than a simple player acquisition. It signalled football's rapid commercial evolution and the growing influence of market forces on sporting decisions. Wallace's statistical performance at Forest tells a complex story. He made 134 league appearances over 4 seasons, scoring 36 goals. Importantly, he was the club's leading scorer in his first 3 seasons, with totals of 11, 9, and 13 goals respectively. The 1982-83 campaign, where he scored 13 goals, was described as probably his best at the club, helping Forest finish 5th and return to European competition. However, the raw numbers revealed a significant shift in productivity. Wallace's goals per game ratio at Forest was approximately 0.27 compared to his peak Coventry average of 0.50. This statistical decline became the foundation for criticism that he could never reproduce his Coventry form. The reality was more nuanced. Wallace remained Forest's primary attacking threat, but he fell short of the 20-plus goals per season that his record transfer fee seemed to demand. The challenge for Wallace was that his success at Coventry had been built around a specific tactical system and partnership with Ferguson. At Forest, he was expected to function as a self-sufficient goal machine rather than as part of a complementary striking duo. This tactical shift exposed the limitations of judging transfers purely on individual statistics without considering systemic factors. Understanding Wallace's career requires examining the broader context of football transfers in this era. The rapid increase in player values created unrealistic expectations that individual players could single-handedly transform team fortunes. This pressure was particularly acute for strikers, whose contributions are measured in easily quantifiable goals. Behind the statistical analysis lay a more troubling reality. Wallace was struggling with personal challenges that would later be revealed as decades of alcohol abuse. The pressures of professional football in the early 1980s occurred within a sporting culture that lacked comprehensive support systems for athlete mental health and substance abuse issues. During this period, professional football had virtually no infrastructure to address psychological challenges faced by high-profile players. Medical specialists, counsellors, and rehabilitation programs were not standard features of club operations. Symptoms that we might now recognise as indicators of mental health struggles were often interpreted as character flaws or lack of discipline. The institutional failure to recognise and address these underlying issues meant that players like Wallace were judged solely on visible performance metrics. His inconsistent goal totals and inability to replicate peak form were seen as professional shortcomings rather than potential symptoms of deeper personal struggles requiring medical attention and support. Wallace's experience highlights the dangerous intersection of enormous financial pressure and inadequate support systems. The record transfer fee created unrealistic expectations, while the sporting environment provided no framework for addressing the psychological toll of elite competition. This combination proved devastating for players already vulnerable to mental health challenges. After 4 seasons at Nottingham Forest, Wallace was deemed surplus to requirements as younger players like Peter Davenport emerged. His final game was a 2-0 victory against Manchester United before moving to French club Brest in 1984. This departure marked the beginning of a fragmented career phase that would see him play across 3 continents. Wallace's post-Forest journey took him to Sunderland, Maritimo in Portugal, and Melbourne, Croatia in Australia. This pattern of frequent moves is often associated with players struggling to rebuild stability after major career setbacks. The inability to establish long-term roots at any single club reflected broader challenges in managing both professional expectations and personal well-being. Despite the turbulent conclusion to his playing career in England, Wallace remained connected to football through coaching and management roles. He utilised knowledge gained from working under elite managers like Brian Clough and Jock Stein, eventually accepting the manager position at Dumbarton, where he established a youth development programme. Wallace's later openness about his personal struggles represents a crucial shift toward acknowledging mental health challenges in professional sports. His willingness to discuss the impact of alcohol abuse on both his career and marriage provides valuable testimony about the psychological vulnerabilities inherent in high-stakes athletic environments. The courage required to publicly discuss personal struggles cannot be understated. Wallace's admissions came at a time when such openness was rare in professional sports, particularly regarding substance abuse. His honesty has contributed to broader conversations about athlete welfare and support systems. The lessons from Wallace's career extend far beyond individual circumstances. His story illustrates the tragic consequences when escalating financial demands in professional sports outpace institutional capacity to provide comprehensive athlete support. Modern football has begun addressing these gaps through improved medical infrastructure, psychological support services, and substance abuse programs. Contemporary professional sports have evolved significantly in their approach to athlete welfare. Comprehensive mental health support, substance abuse programs, and holistic athlete development have become standard features of professional football operations. These improvements represent recognition that athletic performance cannot be separated from overall well-being. Wallace's experience serves as a powerful reminder that behind every transfer fee and statistical analysis lies a human being navigating enormous pressures. The commercialization of football creates unprecedented opportunities, but also unprecedented challenges that require sophisticated support systems to manage effectively. Today's players benefit from lessons learned through cases like Wallace's. The integration of sports psychology, mental health counseling, and comprehensive medical support represents a fundamental shift in how professional sports organizations approach athlete care. Ian Wallace's legacy encompasses both his remarkable achievements at Coventry City and the important lessons his struggles taught the football community about athlete care. His story reminds us that true success in professional sports requires not just talent and opportunity, but comprehensive support systems that recognize athletes as complete human beings. As we reflect on stories like Wallace's, consider how important mental health support has become in modern sports. What other changes would you like to see in how we support professional athletes? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more thoughtful explorations of football history and the human experiences that shape the beautiful game.